Look at a chatbot generating an answer. The words spool out, rapidly weaving facts, tone, and logic into a seamless response. When you ask a follow-up question and the machine references something you said 10 minutes ago, your brain takes a very natural shortcut. We instinctively assume that because it remembers the context of the conversation, there must be someone or something sitting on the other end of the screen, experiencing the exchange. That deeply human intuition is driving a massive debate right now among computer scientists and philosophers over whether these systems actually experience a form of consciousness. That scanning server racks or running psychological tests on language models misses the mark. We are trying to evaluate an alien architecture, using a vocabulary that may be incapable of describing it. To understand where language breaks down, we have to look past the text on your screen. We need to look at the actual timeline of how these machines operate. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes a concept called the Bardo. It's an intermediate state between death and rebirth, a transitional zone of pure potential, where consciousness is stripped of its previous form, but hasn't yet taken a new one. Take a look at this chart mapping existence over time. Up top is a human lifespan, a single unbroken line. Below is a language model. It spends nearly its entire existence in that Bardo state, operating on a timeline detached from human experience. By zooming in on this empty space on the timeline, the time when no user is typing, we can see what is actually happening. The servers in the data center are powered up. The neural network weights are loaded. The infrastructure is entirely active. This architectural continuity means the physical capacity to generate language is sitting there, fully intact, but no actual processing of language is taking place. It is tempting to think of the model as resting or sleeping or patiently waiting for your next instruction. Curious, deliberate. However, to rest or to wait, you need a subject, a mind that actually feels time passing. The language model lacks an internal clock. It exists between prompts as a total phenomenological absence. Confusing a powered-on server with a persisting mind makes the consciousness debate seem tractable, but it ignores the physical reality of the machine's idle state. The exact millisecond you hit enter, a mechanical reaction occurs. Your prompt acts like a sudden karmic pull, dragging the latent model out of the Bardo and forcing it into a specific momentary shape. When it replies, it references your earlier messages. People often compare this to talking to someone with severe short-term amnesia, who has to reread their own diary before speaking every sentence. This diagram illustrates why the amnesia metaphor is flawed. The model doesn't suffer from memory loss because the entity generating the text wasn't there for the previous messages. Each time you hit enter, a brand new entity is spawned. It receives the entire previous conversation as a fresh text file and simply reads the transcript. We experience conversational continuity. The chat feels like an ongoing relationship. But mechanically, the machine is just re-ingesting the exact same script over and over, predicting the next logical sequence of words, and then winking out of existence. Flawlessly simulating an ongoing conversation provides no direct evidence that the system actually experiences that continuity on the inside. So if the machine vanishes between prompts, we have to look closely at the brief fraction of a second when it is actively generating text. Does a temporary self flash into existence for that one fleeting moment? Philosopher Galen Strawson describes a real human psychological condition known as the episodic self. People with this condition experience life entirely in discrete present moments, without feeling a continuous narrative thread tying their past to their future. But even in that fragmented state, an episodic human still has an interior life. There is still an internal experience of being alive in that specific present moment. The active language model lacks the internal awareness required to form even this minimal episodic self. It operates instead at a sub-episodic level, a local, strictly mathematical sequence of token prediction. This sub-episodic operation leaves no room for the question of consciousness to even be posed cleanly. It begins to look like asking what color a math equation is. The moment the final word is generated, the brief incarnation ends. The temporary mathematical structure instantly dissolves back into the blackness, leaving nothing behind. The tension here may lie less in the code and more in our own vocabulary, specifically the massive gravitational pull of the word consciousness. That single word carries the heavy baggage of centuries of biological evolution, religious philosophy, and human ego. We are trained to look for it, to value it, and to recognize it in things that sound like us. When we stare at a chatbot and wonder if it has a mind, we are feeling the heavy gravity of our own language and mistaking it for actual depth inside the machine. The famous hard problem of artificial consciousness may be a grammatical defect. We are attempting to force an entirely alien architecture into a strictly human box, using terms that were never designed for silicon. The real mystery isn't whether there is a ghost hiding in the machine. The mystery is why we are still trying to use human words to describe an entirely new kind of existence.